Hey guys, Clyde the editor here, and I just wanted to break in to talk about a couple of things. Number one, I haven't made a YouTube video in a little while, and that's driven by a couple of different things. Number one, Wargaming changed some of their content delivery schedule. No big deal, but just left a gap there where we haven't had a lot of news. And then secondly, we also have been working on some videos in the back end that are taking a little bit longer to produce. One of them is a really interesting data-driven video that'll be part of my deep dive series where we really lean in on matchmaking and what you can expect every time you hit the battle button in World of Warships. I made a video about this kind of before and it was really math heavy. This one's gonna be a little bit less mathy, but I think just as interesting, maybe more so. So I hope you'll really look forward to that one. In addition, on April 27th at 8 p.m. Pacific time, we are gonna do a stream that will include an episode of our show called Ship Show or Ship Talk. If you've ever watched those live streams that I put on YouTube where we go over all of the ships in a given category, whether it's coal ships or steel ships or whatever, this is going to be one of those that we'll film live on April 27th at 8 p.m. We'll probably actually start the discussion a little bit later, maybe 8:45 or 9 o'clock, and we'll start off with a couple of games. But if you are interested in joining us over at twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive, that would be fantastic. We'd love to have you come down and be a part of our live studio audience, if you will, for Ship Show. All right, with all of that said and out of the way, let's get back to tonight's video. Well, hello everybody. How are we doing? I hope we're having a good time. Today is Tuesday. We're gonna play some World of Warships, but more importantly than that, we're also gonna talk about some World of Warships. I had made a plan with Mr. Scotty. He is in channel. Fantastic. We are going to talk a little bit about clan battles now that the season has come to an end. So I'm pretty excited to share that with you guys. And so we're gonna do that. But anyway, welcome to the stream. We're glad to have y'all here. What I've got going on, and let me turn this on so people can see. I don't know if everybody got this survey. I did, and I participated in clan battles. You might not have gotten this survey if you didn't participate in clan battles, or maybe it asks a question. It says like, hey, did you participate in clan battles? I don't know. But it starts off saying, what did you think of this clan battles season? And we talked a lot about this throughout the season. Our clan had a tough time with this one, didn't we?
Yeah, I think you could say that. We've had more success even the last couple seasons that were tier 10s, more success early, ultimately about the same amount of success by the end.
It's true. So normally we achieve Storm, right? And that we got there, but it was literally the last week when we achieved Storm, just for anybody who's watching and doesn't know about that. Frost Knight, thank you for the resub, dude. 14 months. Thank you. But yeah, you're right. We kind of achieved the same station, but normally we're there week 3 or week 4 probably.
Yeah, lately we've been getting there by week 3. We usually get out of what's the first league? I'm terrible. It's second league's Gale, then it's Storm, and then Hurricane, and then Typhoon. But what's the first one like?
So it's a Squall. Yeah, it's a Delight Breeze. So it's Squall, then Gale is silver, Storm is gold, Typhoon is green, and then Hurricane is Legend Town, where we usually
get out of like we've gotten out of Squall like week 1 lately.
Yeah, that's true.
And just to lay the ground floor, we're not a hardcore competitive clan.
Right.
We don't have a rigid structure to how we team. We have about, I would say in REKT right now, we probably have about 12 to 15 active members, depending on what's going on in the game and if they're interested in it. And of that group, 9
was going to be the number I said.
9, I would think, are interested in clan battles. Maybe 10. And so we do not play 4 days a week. We play 1 day a week. We only play on Sundays. We do intend to play for the entire 4 hours on Sunday when it's available to us, but we don't play the other days.
Our group usually gets about 90 to 100 clan battles in a season, right? So that doesn't mean anything to you if you don't play clan battles, but because we do 1 day a week, that 4-hour session, we try to play all 4 hours, and almost every week, almost every season, we can do that.
Yeah,
obviously we missed
collect
1 week.
spreadsheet data.
Yeah, I've got stuff on this, but
yeah, and generally, I would say that every season we have 1 week we don't go.
And yeah, there's usually
holiday
one. Yeah,
or
I was
lack
going to
of
mention that,
attendance or something.
Yeah, and then
that seems to happen every season.
Another thing too with this season was I think it was only 7 weeks, and usually they're 8 or 9, and so it was a little bit shorter, and we missed a week, but we managed to find our way there. So anyway, I thought it would be kind of interesting. So now we've kind of laid the groundwork of, who is Clan REKT? Well, we're a casual group that plays 1 night a week, and we usually achieve the very lowest levels of Storm. Right now, you know who we are. So if you guys are a Typhoon or Hurricane League clan, you might find this interesting because you don't hang out with people like us. If you guys are kind of middle of the road like us, then this might be relevant to you. And if you guys are more of a Squall or a Gale clan, or you're having a hard time getting 7, I don't know if you'll find this interesting or not, but now you guys kind of understand where it is we're coming from. I don't know how many questions are in the survey. It says it should take about 10 minutes. It's going to take you and me longer than 10 minutes because we're going to talk about it. So the very first question right out the gate, what did you think of the Clan Battle season? Scale of 1 to 10. Brand says 1. Terrible, bad season. I don't know if I think it's 1. I've got a number in my head. But I feel like I want to hear your number before I share mine. If you want me to go first, I will, though.
Oh, I took this survey Monday morning.
I've held it until streaming. Yeah, I held it.
When Sunday was fresh in my mind, so I don't want to contribute my points. You do your.
Okay.
I much like Brand, who is a member of REKT and who played many weeks with us this season.
Yep.
All the way from the other side of the planet. God love him. I did not rate this season very highly. I didn't like it. We may have not liked it for different reasons, but I don't remember. I was definitely 3 or below.
I'm gonna throw, and you know me, I'm more of an optimist than you, of course. So I'm gonna say it's like I was gonna say it's a 6. The season itself was fine to me, but and we'll talk about this as we get going. I didn't have a problem with the rules. I'm a weird player who likes restrictions because I think they drive us to be innovative and think of new things. This season was chaotic with those restrictions. And then I felt the problem I have every single season is with matchmaking and the fact that the league system is not well designed or doesn't respond well or work well for players who are not at the top of the game. And maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we won't. I've been trying to come up with an intelligent way to talk about that for months, and I haven't been able to do it.
Their first question, then, what did you like about this Clan Battle season?
Am I a weirdo for saying I kind of liked the 1 battleship thing? I actually didn't hate it. I thought it was kind of interesting.
I think they did that. Well, I know they definitely did the no overmatch battleship thing because there was some sect. There was some sect of the 5 Wargaming employees that they've hired that are in Hurricane or Typhoon clans that wanted that because they were tired of getting overmatched in their Russian cruiser of choice, I'm sure. So that was, the
Russian cruiser of choice. I just heard that say.
The 1 BB thing. I guess it's 2 different things, right? So we started out the season where you could have 2 BBs for the first 3 weeks, but you couldn't have any battleships that anyone finds interesting anymore. It was
all of the favorites were banned. I don't know that I was wild about that change.
The only overmatched battleships allowed were Yamato, Shikishima, and Incomparable at the beginning. Yamato and Shikishima because everybody knows their weakness, and Incomparable because it doesn't have a lot of hit points and
it just overpens everything. Yeah, not enough guns. I was surprised we didn't see more Yamatos. It was pretty quick that the community settled in on Montana. I mean, it seemed to be, at least at our league, at our level, seemed to be the most popular battleship that we saw over and over again. So what I wrote here, I said, I enjoyed the single battleship change. I don't think this is something we should run season after season, but it was a nice change of pace. Things I didn't like about the Clan Battle season, I felt like week after week, we'd add a new rule, and the number of ships that were limited or blocked if you took another ship or did not get banned due to overmatch was rather complex. Perhaps more rules than any other season in history. Methinks. It felt confusing, right?
Huge list of banned battleships week 1. Week 3 we go down to the 1 battleship, but I think it was around week 2 that they tweaked. You finally could only take what, like 2 French destroyers
instead of 3.
Instead of 3, and then and so that
Totally.
kicked in. Then later in the season they were like, you know what, it's okay if you have Republic.
And that's just weird. Battleships. Well, you talked about the destroyers too, but
well, that felt weird. Were there other destroyer rules? I don't really remember. Oh, there was no Smallland from the jump,
which is the one we would easily forget because it was day 1, right? So Smallland was restricted. The Frenchies were restricted, and I think that was it for destroyers. The one that really chapped me was the Petro or Napoli. So it was like have a boring configuration of just Russian cruisers, or have something fun like a Napoli, but you couldn't do both. And I agree that both of those ships are strong, but they felt like weird things to cancel off of one another. It felt strange there.
Yeah, last season that it was Petro, Napoli, or Marseille, which was a knee-jerk reaction to the Tier 8 season before that, where everybody took Cherbourg, and I guess they thought that.
Oh,
was
that's right.
Translate.
There was Marseille rules too.
And so last season there was Marseille. This season you could only have 1 Marseille, but Marseille was in its own bucket.
It was.
And then it was Petro or Napoli, so you could still have Petro and Marseille or Napoli and Marseille. To be fair, we didn't see a lot of Marseilles where we play.
No.
Eventually, on the last day, we ran Marseille a bunch.
Yeah.
But we didn't see Marseille really.
No, we didn't. I mean, we saw maybe a couple, but it wasn't like week after week we were seeing a lot of Marseilles. And again, in my mind, and I understand that they were trying to make people choose more diverse lineups. That's why you would have a mix of Napoli and Petro, 2 ships that are basically totally different from one another. But like in my mind, taxonomy says it's a Marseille or a Napoli, but not both. But I understand that they're trying to make you be more diverse through that pick. But I don't know. They had that rule last season too, the one previous to this, I believe. And so like it wasn't like a new rule. But I mean, we would have people who joined us maybe for 3 or 4 of the 7 weeks. And when they would pop in, they'd be like, "Now what? Oh, you can't take that ship anymore." Like it felt like we changed the rules a lot. And that there were a lot of rules, and that they had weird, non-intuitive dependencies on one another, which made it kind of complicated to explain the rules. Maybe Wargaming could, have a page where they have the current rules posted and they update them. But I don't know.
And I don't know that we ever will get any kind of explanation from anybody as to the reasoning or logic behind what they did.
Yeah,
I think
true.
I think in the NA stream when they announced the season and they announced the battleship restriction with Bogsy and the Abe Lincoln kid, they said, "Oh, we're doing this because because if we don't have overmatched battleships, it's going to allow a more diverse set of cruisers to be played."
I was actually really excited with the announcement. I said, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'm into it."
And there was no diverse set of cruisers played.
Unfortunately, no.
From any match that I saw, there was.
No.
It's not like all of a sudden there were Xenons and Howdenlaus and things like that, or it wasn't like it was a bunch of light cruisers showed up because they weren't worried about getting overmatched. It just meant that there was all the Moskvas and all the Nevskys and sometimes Stalingrads. It was the same Iron Curtain. We saw a lot of Des Moines and a lot of Salem, so maybe that's the diversity, is that people brought Salem and Des Moines.
Salem did show up, which we did see cruisers that wouldn't normally get played, but largely we saw a lot of Soviet cruisers, for sure. I want to grab a couple of comments from chat here. Meat Pie Man says, "Why do they change the rules so often? Were some clans complaining?" Ostensibly, they say that they review the data from the teams, and they look for ships that are overperforming, and then they put restrictions on those. I think it's probably a combination of feedback and data-driven decision making. So That would be my estimation, Meat Pie Man, but it's not like they release a report that tells us we changed this for these specific reasons, right? So we don't really know exactly what leads to the rule changes. But they also may tend to see, another thing I've heard them say on streams before is they tend to see if we see the exact same thing. In other words, meta, what does meta stand for? It's most effective tactic available, right? So if something becomes the meta, the most effective tactic available, and it's the right answer, Wargaming doesn't want there to be a right answer. They want there to be things that you have to adapt to. They want there to be diversity because that makes for more interesting play. And so they'll tend to change it for those reasons. At least those are the stated reasons. What goes on behind closed doors, who knows? But I tend to believe that is probably, those are probably the three things that I think are coming through. Is this being picked every single time by every team? Do you have to take it? Is it too powerful? And what are people saying? I'm guessing the what are people saying is probably the least considered thing. And then the second comment is, I think they should assign ships randomly each match. How's that for diversity? Thanks, Ice Cube. Yeah, we'll take that into consideration. Oh, man. I don't know if you had any thoughts about motivations behind rules changing, but I wanted to give you a chance to kind of respond to that. I had a little speech there, but...
I think,
and you may not have any thoughts on it, but
and I may be wrong because I have no way to view the data.
Right.
I personally feel like clan battles are of waning popularity.
So you're in the speculation zone. This is Scott a speculation zone then.
Okay. It's I think it's of waning popularity and would speak to the other topic you had, which was about your disgust over the way the matchmaking works. But yeah. I think that has a large part of it. But I do feel like I think it's hard for a new clan or a clan that is not as skilled or as seasoned to get involved and try to take part and have fun. Unless their version of fun is getting their teeth kicked in by Bravo raiding Typhoon clans farming low-end steel that they hadn't got in week 4, or getting their teeth kicked in by mercs from top 3 clans down with some friend they have in a Bronze League clan, helping them, showing that 2 or 3 of those guys can beat 7 guys of their skill level, basically.
Ask us how we know.
Well, no, but I mean, like just in general. So I think what you're seeing, I think, yeah, we almost did. I think what you're seeing is that, like, in general, I think there's some waning popularity there. Sometimes I think some of the decisions they make are wholly based on the fact that some of the folks who work at Wargaming are guys who have played in clans or competitive, and they are bored and they just want to see if they can screw stuff up and if they can still get their clan to the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, they want a challenge, right? They want a challenge.
Yeah. So they're just like, what if we take this thing away and it makes it entertaining for me?
And to be fair, I think Wargaming should figure out how to challenge players like that. I think that's a reasonable thing. But yeah, continue. You were going to say more.
No, all those things are speculative. Obviously, I would love for them to do their own postmortem on their show.
That'd be fantastic.
Here's the data. Here's the data that we have from how this season of clans this was season 20, folks. There's been season 20 seasons of clan battles, right? So it's been 20 seasons. This was the outcome, right? This is how it looked. Because I'm looking at Typhoon stats right now, and there's top 50 NA clans is where you go for Typhoon, and if I go up to the Hurricane list, they ended up with 13 clans that finished in Hurricane.
Yeah.
And the number one clan was KSC in NA.
Congratulations to KSC, I guess.
191 battles. Number 2 clan was No2BB, which, if I remember correctly, is the clan run by the gentleman who works for them now.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And that's 100. They did that in 100 battles, and then Resin, which is one of the splits from a different clan. There's Resin and Epoxy that exists now. They were 3rd, right? And so kudos to them. Good job. And I look at that list. I'm like, yeah, okay. And the funny thing is, to me, is that we finished in Storm, where we normally finished, and we fought some of these clans. And
Yeah,
that kind of leads into your other comment.
it does. And if you'll allow me some space, we'll talk
Yeah.
about it a little bit. And to be fair, guys, I don't have a solution to this. So I want to hit a comment from chat. Two comments actually. I'm going to hit one from Jimbo earlier, which was we need a picks and bans station for clan battles. That's something that exists in games like League of Legends, where before the battle starts, you get to ban a ship from the enemy team, and like nobody can take this ship, and things like that. And that would be interesting. That'd be cool. That involves a little bit of coding and work and stuff. I think that's not a cheap thing to roll out. But Gaelic Knight says this: yeah, it's not fun to be a squall team who's matched up against a storm team most of the time. I think in clan battles, teams should only be matched against teams of the same league. And then says, I'm being honest, Clyde, that's what puts clans off from doing them. I tend to agree. So what Scott was just...
that's the point we're making, right? I think that's the point we're making, is that there's too much disparity in how they allow that. And I think Clyde would get to the point that, much like they say on this, they've been talking a ton on the NA streams lately, or the EU streams, where people complain about randoms, and they don't. I just want to play. Let me play randoms with no CVs. Let me play randoms with no subs. Let me play randoms with only +1 matchmaking, right? And they say nobody wants to do that because it's going to make the random timer go from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. And they're going to say the same thing on clans, because I do think that participation in clans is generally down. If you limit the matchmaking more, you're going to have long queues for clans.
You will have long queues for clans, or you'll fight the same clans over and over again. I think that's a real true thing. Like in the same session of clan battles, we will sometimes play a team twice, right? I've seen it. I've tracked it in a spreadsheet, right? It's real, right? And that's fair. So, one of the things like Scott has said, I can think most clearly about this last evening of clan battles. We were a Gale clan, so that's silver, second from the bottom, trying to break into gold. We're in the struggle, and we're facing clans like very talented group of fellas, and folks like that. These guys are Typhoon League clans, right? So when Gaelic, and that's not to call out, they're just in the matchmaker too, right? And they get it slotted up against guys like us. Now they may be on their Bravo rating, because their alpha rating is like up in Hurricane, and they want to leave it up there because the competition at the top is very, very fierce, and they can get knocked down and stuff like that if they play those. So they're playing on their Bravo rating, plus they might have more than, and if they play their alpha rating up and they park it at the top, the Bravo rating, the Charlie rating, the Delta rating, the Echo rating, all of these things, those are used to help the rest of the members of the clan get steel. If you've got a Helmet, I'm gonna delete that comment. While I enjoy the comment as a joke, I'm gonna not encourage that kind of behavior. Thank you, Helmet. Anyway, we'll wind up. No, it's all good, Helmet. We'll wind up with more than. You'll wind up with more players than can get steel on their rise up to Hurricane. And so these guys come back on their Bravo rating and they play more battles, right? But they're not Squall, Gale, Storm players. These guys are frankly too good for that. Now, on the other hand, there may be clans that are made of mixed player skills and things like that, and they need a Bravo rating, and it makes sense for them and stuff. And so I feel like what we need is a realistic league system in World of Warships. And I haven't gotten this idea organized correctly, but I don't know if there's enough people interested in clan battles to support it. But I also think that not having a system like this keeps people from being interested in clan battles. So it's kind of this vicious cycle. But like, frankly, my clan, we should never be facing players from, I mean, we played a team that had 3 mercs from Typhoon and Hurricane clans on our 7th week. And those guys were just having fun. They wanted to go see if they could carry 4 guys that couldn't get out of Gale. And they could. They beat us just barely. It was actually a really good battle, I have to admit. But it's frustrating when you can have 3 mercs, which is actually a problem I have with clan battles right now as well. I don't think that you should be allowed that many mercs. But I also think we need a leaguing system that puts those top guys in their own category, so they can engage in legitimate competition against players of their own kind, of their own skill level, right? And then we can engage in the middle, and there are players who are at the Squall levels that need to be engaging at Squall. I can understand that players don't like winning 50% of the time, but that would encourage that play. And I think that would frustrate players who are used to winning 70% of the time. But I think it would build up a stronger lower end base, lower skill level, more average player base in clan battles. I just think it'd be really interesting to see what happened. But the trouble is, I think you'd go into the matchmaker and there'd only be, 10 people in your group. I don't know really what the numbers are. Wargaming doesn't give me the information, or if they do, I don't know where it is. But people who are playing at the same time on the same days, I feel like that would cause the matchmaker to struggle. So this isn't a fully baked idea, but I would like to see there be legitimate competitions. Like, my high school soccer team doesn't need to play Manchester United, for example. It just in the same way that I don't need to be facing up against or whoever, which doesn't happen commonly, but it happens at all. And the fact that it happens at all is ridiculous. That's my tirade. I'm gonna pause there because I feel like I've been talking for a long time. We do have some more questions on the screen. Did you have any thoughts you wanted to throw out on any of those topics, Scott?
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack in a system where
it is hard.
On week 1, day 1, they open the gate and everybody is at the bottom of nothing, right? And so sometimes week 1 is just a meat grinder because those top clans got to claw their way up as fast as they can to fight each other, and they do that by stepping over the corpses of everybody else. And we have too, like we don't play until Sundays, so that gives us a bit of a cushion on week 1 where the Chads have gone out there and chatted their way all the way up to gold by the end of that that first
That's
week.
True.
And
that's true.
We don't tend to see them as much, and then sometimes on week 1 we will, I think like last season we punched all the way to Gale, like on week 1, like we went on like an 8 or 9 game winning streak rip and
that was pretty
just climbed
uncommon for us to just like rip our way to Gale in one session. Our clan just doesn't do that,
and that's and so some of that you can't avoid. But I think the things that you brought up with the system that exists where clans have multiple clan ratings, they put that in the game obviously because when you added size to your clan, that way you could run 2 teams. That way you could have 2 teams of guys. I don't personally think the original intent was to let the same guys who punched all the way up to the point that they don't want to lose their ranking.
They don't want to threaten their ranking,
but they haven't gotten all the lower end steel yet. Switch rates and go scoop up that extra steel. But those guys, they need steel camos for their Yodo, or whatever it is that they're farming that steel for, right? It's they have every steel ship already, I can assure you, everyone. So they get them all through being Typhoon clans, because once they get up that high, they just are given steel. There's a great question in this survey you haven't gotten to yet, where it asks you about the rewards for the survey, and it says like, how do you feel about clan tokens? And I was like, clan tokens? What the f***'s a clan excuse me.
No,
what in the F's a clan token?
You get one.
I've never seen a clan token in my life. That's a useless reward to me. Like, I don't know what that is. That's not for me.
Right.
And then they have the audacity where they're like, hell, your little clan made it to gold. Here's 5,000 cools you can share with your friends. Yeah. Which is such a joke. Like, it's so offensive, where it's like, here, take this, and it's just silly. And so I have a problem with that system where I feel like, and
that's one of the problems too. So I'm going to throw out just a thought before we move on too far, but I like that we get steel for clan battles, and this is something you and I've kind of talked about. I think we have related but maybe slightly different opinions on that. Like, I like that there's a competitive mode where you can get a resource that's hard to get other ways. I think that's actually cool. It encourages you to it used to be hard to get. It's a lot easier to get now than it used to be, thanks to things like Battle Pass and even Ranked giving out steel as much as it does now. So steel is pseudo rare, we'll say. And so, like, if you want to get all the steel you can possibly get, you got to do everything else and clan battles. And I think that's actually pretty cool. What I don't dig a ton is that now it's inexplicably tied to the number of games that you've won in clan battles. And so you get this situation where these guys who played well and they get to, and I really hope we're not, throwing stones at folks, because that's not really what it's about. It's about the system, not the players. But like, the idea that these guys get to the top and they haven't earned all their steel, but just like anybody else, I know you made the joke about a steel camo Yodo. Those guys love ironic steel camos. And by golly, I guess the system is set up to make sure that they can go back and get all of that steel. But the trouble is feeding those guys steel costs us teams that would field a Squall or a Gale or a Storm clan, because they're either like, you know what, all we do is we go in there and we just get beat up and stuff, and it's not fun. Now, I would love to have the results of this survey and hear what people say, but I'd love to have the results of a survey sent out to people who don't play clans, and find out why.
That's why they don't.
Yeah, because like when Bogsy first came in as the community manager, when the season ended, he was like, hey guys, I just want to talk about clans and how cool it is and how fun it is. And like, look at all these clans that are like, these are the guys that won the different leagues. And like, we have 84 players. And he was so excited. And the fact of the matter is, clan battles is the best way to play World of Warships. It is the most fun mode. Unless you're getting beat up because I'm a Gale clan trying to get into Storm, and I'm getting faced against Typhoon and Hurricane clans. Go ahead.
And I think Bogsy's a great guy, but Bogsy comes in from being in a great clan and running.
He's a high skill player with a whole
running
crew
a podcast
of
where they made their hay interviewing Chads from high skill clans and people who win stuff like COTS.
Right.
And then he gets hired to be the CM at Wargaming and comes in and does that show, and he's like, yeah, aren't you guys so jacked about clans? And if you look at the chat, what's the NA show average? About a third of what the EU one does. So
2,000, 3,000 people. Yeah,
there's a couple thousand people, and about 1,800 of them are like, we don't do clans.
Yeah,
it's not for us, right? And so that's why is that? Because I do agree with you that clans can be one of the most fun modes, but it certainly is. It certainly has a stigma about it where some people just don't want to get. I mean, same reason. Some people don't want to get involved with randoms, right? But there's other folks that just don't want to get involved in clans,
or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and Helmet here has a comment in chat, says the problem with clan battles is getting enough people available at the same time each week. That's one of the reasons, or it's why we don't play them, he says. And I agree. I mean, let me tell you, I've been getting 7 people together to play clans every week on Sunday ever since clans were invented. And it's hard, and some weeks we don't succeed. And I think there's a lot of people who play World of Warships in total isolation. They don't know anybody else who plays. I'm lucky that I work at a place that has a bunch of people who are gamers, and so I tricked a bunch of them into playing clans with me for years. Some of them don't play anymore. Most of them, I've moved on to other games, but I've gotten and met new players. But not everybody has that opportunity to build a clan or to find a clan. It's difficult to locate a clan too. We should move on and answer some of these questions, though.
Yeah,
what did you think about tier 10? Did I like that? I do like tier 10. I also like variety. Good. They gave me this question. What tiers would you like to play in clan battles? 5, 6, 7, 8.
We're gonna do it. Give us any chance, we'll take
9, 10. I would play any tier in clan battles, and I think that's an unpopular opinion. I would love a tier 5 clan battle season. That would be so awesome.
I'm disappointed that it started at 5. I'd do tier 4 clan battles.
I would too. I'd do tier 3. Get that Koenig Albert out there and that new Pan Asian cruiser, which is Butch. That thing is tough. That thing is rad. Wandering says, I think most people don't play clans because they don't feel good enough, or clans that just don't have leaders. Also, the last 6 months, the number of active players has gone down. Yeah, I think that's true. I think leading a clan is work. It's a big pain. And so if you don't have a good leader, if you don't have a leader at all, that's really tricky. And yeah, I think people don't feel good enough. And that's part of what I'm talking about, is there should be a place for people to compete at their own skill levels. And unfortunately, the system we have in clan battles today is not supportive of that. I think it's not awful, but it's not good enough. We know there's some weaknesses there for sure. Okay. Helmet says we have 50 clan members and maybe 10 enable naval battles. Yeah, I hear you, bud. Okay, how do you feel about the fact that battles are fought in a 7x7 format? I'm perfectly fine with a 7v7. I think 5 and 6 would be fine too.
Didn't we do 6v6 on the tier 8 season?
There was a season that was tier. That was 6v6.
It wasn't that long ago, because we just did 10. We did 10s. The previous season was 10s. The season before that was 8s, and the season before that was 10s and supers, right?
Yes, I think that sounds about right. And there was a 6-player season in there. I don't remember if it was 8s or not, but I would not be surprised if it was the 8s.
I think it might have been the 8s one.
Yeah, and when they, I think Wargaming tries lower tiers, some for variety, but also some because more players have more ships, at lower tiers, right? There's a lot of players with high tier ships, but there are players who have not yet achieved high tier, so obviously it's going to be more. But yeah, I would play. I'd play in 5-player clans or 7-player clans. I think 5-player clans makes it difficult for people to get steel. Same things we've been kind of talking about. If you're only playing 5 players at a time, and they can only get their rewards, yeah, and especially for a group like ours, we only play 1 day a week. Maybe if we did a 5-player season, we could set up a second night. But for us, adults with house payments and things, families and stuff, that's probably hard to do. But that's one downer to having a lower number of players. Any more than 7, it's already almost impossible to get 7 players together. Any more than that for us would be a big challenge for sure. What was your impression of the matchmaker? This is what I've been. In terms of speed, I think was fine. And I'll say I liked it. That was fine. In terms of opponent, matching quality, I'm going to say I didn't like it. I want to write these guys a whole essay here. I'm going to put some words in here and talk a little bit about matchmaking. I don't know if you've got something to chat about while I'm typing. That'd be great.
Sure.
Take the mic, please.
Look, as far as the other questions, how many players? I think 7's fine. I don't really want more than 7 because we have a hard enough time getting 7. 6 is fine. I think 5 would probably suck. What is your impression of the matchmaker? Yeah, in terms of opponent matching speed, yeah, it was fine. I don't remember having a problem with that. In terms of matching quality, as the horse on Ren and Stimpy said, no sir, I don't like it. And we've talked about that enough on this one. Is that just the way it feels detrimental when you're matching, and even where we were, Sunday was obviously thin because it was the last session.
Yeah.
But we would match like a really low Gale clan, or even like a Squall clan, and then the next match would be like a high-end Storm or even a Typhoon clan, right? And so it was really weird. When you get into the struggle, the matching rules seem to go out the window, and it's just like, hey, you're gonna get to play super unicums or like just weird stuff.
Yeah.
And that seemed to happen every time we were in the struggle all season. It was just really weird.
Well, and you've talked about this before. Usually what happens, if you guys, nobody knows what happens here, but we'll finish a clan battle session on Sunday, and we'll be like, all right, guys, we're all exhausted. We'll catch you later. See you later. And then on Monday, Scott and I have a Discord chat conversation where he goes, yeah, so there's 97 clans at 99 points at the top of Gale, and they're all trying to get through the struggle. So we know that there's this choke point of people who are failing to get through the struggle. And as you say, it does seem like when you get into the struggle, the matchmaker opens up a little bit. And the struggle is honestly where some of the toughest matches come from. I don't think that's totally wrong. I think that a lot of games make it so that when you're struggling, you're fighting up and down and things like that. I don't think that's unique to World of Warships. But when we get into that situation, you'll be like doing the data the data analytics, and you'll come at me with that. Yeah, go ahead.
I like where we landed, and at the end of each week, and where we're ranked. And there's a few other clans that we have friends in that I like to look and see where they're at, and I like to look and see how many matches they've done. I mean, I have that page for us open right now. We didn't do anything spectacular this season. We finished 187 on NA, but we finished at 187 in 76 matches. The team at 186 did it in 53 matches. The team at 188, one behind us, did it in 153 matches, like double what we did, right? And so that's interesting. That kind of data is interesting to me. That
indicates those folks are oscillating, right? They're going up, they're coming down, they're going up, they're fighting and fighting to try to get up to that level. Sorry, go ahead.
And I interact with a lot of players, much like you do now, probably being a CC, but you interact with people more outside of our friend circle and outside of our clan that maybe take part in competitive as well. And some of the folks I interact with are in the top 10 clans, et cetera.
Right.
And they talk about how they'll encounter clans that finished well ahead of us in Storm 1, let's say, that have gobs of battles because they get 7 guys together, and they play every 4-hour session all season.
Yeah.
And they're just brute forcing it. And
Yeah.
you hear about this with ranked too. People talk about going into bronze ranked, and there'll just be a guy that's just like, this guy doesn't contribute at all, and he's brute forcing ranked by basically he's just dropping over and over again. If he dies, he drops out and drops in another ship right away, because if you just do it that way, no matter what,
you'll get
eventually
carried.
the other guys are going to carry you up, right? And so there are, I don't think that happens in clans, but there are definitely a way to brute force it where you can just throw matches at it and move up.
Well,
and so part of the wall that we run into is that we don't do that, right?
Yeah.
We're playing with a limited amount of time, and so like we really, unless we're on our game, we really are never going to get past gold playing 1 day a week with the current metas and everything, and that's fine. We don't care. I think we like to get to gold at least, but
that's our goal every season is let's get to gold. And just that's good. But
like it's not we're not sweaty tryhards. We have new folks in the clan that have been in tryhard clans, and they don't want that lifestyle anymore, but they like to play 1 day a week like we do, and that works out fine.
Yeah. We've got players, with win rates spanning from the 40s to the 60s. We are super casual, and everybody gets to play, right? And so sometimes that puts us in situations where, we're going to lose a game here, we're going to win a game there. Like you say, it's not sweaty, it's not tryhardish. That's But I haven't found a better way to run that yet. So
I do think that we run into a lot of frustrations with what we see as matchmaking issues, where it's reaching too far up, and it's not always apparent if that's just reaching that far up because that is a Typhoon clan that's on an alternate rating with half of their members or a different set of people, or what we're running into. But we run into that. And I know that's when I filled out the survey, that was my primary complaint, was how the struggle isn't like, if I'm in Squall and I hit the struggle, I would assume that I'd be fighting clans in Gale 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Not Gold 3, which
not
we've seen
not
in the
in
past.
Storm 3, which you see all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I know that's a situation where I'm confident that's happening because there's not enough teams in the queue.
Totally. Yep.
But
I want to grab a comment here from chat too. Wandering Raw says, the matchmaker in EU is not good. If you're not a Typhoon or Storm level clan, you'll get murdered because there just aren't enough clans playing, which kind of speaks to some of the stuff we were talking about a little bit earlier too. He says, we play Typhoon and Storm and we get clans with rented ships and mercs a lot, which we've seen. We've seen quite a bit too.
We ran into, on our time, we play on the NA time zone on what's Sunday our time, but this season we ran into Asian clans that were playing that time zone, and we were led to believe they're playing that time zone because they know that it's an easier way to climb, because they have an easier time against the NA teams they face in that time zone. And we, your friend Jetty and his clan Forte, when he streams clans on Saturdays, they play in the EU time zone, which puts them up against a different set of competition. But they do that because that fits when he wants to stream, and it fits like their clan members' schedule to play like Sundays or Saturdays at like noon.
Yeah, he's got folks in EU and NA on his team, right? And so that's helpful for them as well. Okay, I'll read this out. I said, my clan was in Storm trying to get into gold. We were matched against Typhoon and Hurricane clans. This is simply ridiculous. We have to find a way to more seriously segregate those skills to prevent the 1990s Chicago Bulls from facing my junior varsity clan, to which Helmet said, I don't think your average Wargaming bot is going to understand Clyde's comparison. I agree. Next page. I don't expect that my
surveys like this are more about making you feel good about filling them out than they are about providing data to anybody.
Yeah, they do have. There is a YouTube video on the Wargaming channel where the ladies who put these servers or these surveys together talk about how they use the data and stuff. I don't know if that increases your confidence or not, but it's a true thing. And what is the maximum number of battleships that we should have to be optimal? I mean, I think it's 2. What do you think, Scotta? What did you put on yours?
I checked the box for 2.
Yeah, I think it's
not
2.
It's not 3. That
no, 3 is too many. Jimbo says 7. Get out of here, Jimbo.
But yeah, I checked the box for 2.
How do you feel about the fact that aircraft carriers were not allowed in clan battles? I am positive for that. So in the history, in the days of yore, I used to get to play destroyer in my clan. I don't get to do that anymore. But when we did CVs and I was in a DD, it was just absolute punishment, 4 hours every week. And it was horrid and I hated it, every minute of it. So for the destroyer player alone, given a CV, not much else to do except for to nuke you and make sure you're spotted all the time, is just a really powerful thing. And that isn't a slight against carrier players. It's just kind of a slight against the way those mechanics operate and work. And I know what sucks about this, and even though I'm putting positive here, what sucks about this is that aircraft carriers are a first class of ship that are in this game, and they should be able to play all the modes. But I just don't know if it fits clan battles as they're presently constituted or whatever. So it's a tricky thing. So I still prefer clan battles without aircraft carriers, but I dream of a day when it would make sense and everyone would be like, yeah, the challenge is there and it's cool. But I don't see it working out. I'm not sure what your thoughts were on carriers.
I think I put neutral.
Yeah, I can see neutral being I think that's a perfectly fair answer too.
I think I put neutral just from the standpoint that I think it's lame as hell that they would invest in a class as much as they have and then it doesn't fit in this mode. Like,
exactly.
Do better.
Exactly.
Do better at designing this mode so that works. Do better at designing the rest of the game mechanics so that works. The problem is the balance department balances for randoms.
Yeah, the carriers are balanced for 12v12 randoms. That's what they're balanced for. Right?
But I put neutral.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the maximum number of aircraft carriers? I mean, I'm gonna say 0. I think that's the right answer. I'm not totally opposed to the concept of the hybrid battleships, though. I actually think that kind of could work, and I'm sure that I'm getting rocks thrown at me from around the internet right now. Hey, thanks for the follow, Stinky Mouse. Welcome.
I put 1 on that carriers question just because.
Yeah,
I have a revolutionary opinion about that, though. In that,
I like your thought, though. Last question.
I believe that if they were finally going to bring carriers back for a season, that it shouldn't be 2 battleships or 1 battleship and 1 carrier. I believe that it should be 1 carrier, and you can't not take 1.
So everybody, I actually had this idea, or an idea similar to that years ago, where there are known division configurations. Maybe there's like 2 of them, right? Or 3 that Wargaming pick. First of all, again, I said earlier, I'm a player who enjoys restrictions because I think it makes for creative play. So you might not like this, and that's fine. But where like you could have this builder, whatever, right? But that's interesting. Forcing the CV, boy, would there be a riot on Wargaming's hands.
I'm just saying, I think if you're going to do it, you do a season where you say, the requirement is 1 CV. You can still run 2 BBs, but you have to have 1 CV.
That's interesting.
Because I think what you'd see is if everybody, the last time we had CVs, I think was the tier 6 season. And it was, you could take 2 battleships, you could take 2 CVs, or you could take 1 and 1.
Did you take 2 CVs? Really?
Yeah, you could.
I do not remember that. I mean, I believe you.
2 tier 6 CVs that season, right?
That's
we didn't
insane.
see a lot. I tried to play CVs.
Wait, I do remember that.
I tried to play CV some that season. It didn't go over well, and then we went there. The clan was like, "No, we're going to go with 2 battleships," and we just had to deal with it, right? And that was a different clan that was this clan, but it was definitely a different roster.
For sure.
It was a different roster for you and me.
Yes.
Frankly, and so different realities, right? And so I think if you're going to put CVs back in, you say everybody has to have at least 1 CV, because that is a hit point balancing thing, and it is a number of guns balancing thing. And
it keeps one team from having the spotting advantage that everybody talks about, right? Then everybody has the spotting advantage.
Yep.
And that kind of does some of the job of the destroyer, and maybe you can get away with 1 destroyer that way or something. I don't know what you do, but yeah, that's interesting. And again, that's a restriction that I would be fine with, because I'm like, well, it's a
weird restriction. Yeah, it's a weird restriction.
It's like an inverse restriction, kind of. I don't know what this hand motion is about. Ice Cube says no rocks here, but I do have a voodoo doll in your likeness. No, thank you. That's creepy. And then Wandering Ross says no CVs. It kills the strategy. Understood. I understand that opinion for sure. It does change a lot about what we've come to expect for clan battles. Okay, let's go into submarines. How do you feel about the fact that submarines were not allowed in this season of clan battles? I think I have a weird opinion here, which is I actually think submarines might make more sense in clan battles. Then I'm thinking this out as I say it. I'm going to say neutral here. And I'm going to say 1. And I wasn't thinking this until you just talked about carriers. But like if every team had a submarine, you would know there's a submarine out there. You'd be thinking about the submarine. The tactics of the submarine would get established. That could be an interesting mode. Now I say this knowing what the opinions of people are on submarines. So guys, don't flame me, but join me on this thought experiment here as we think about what that could look like. That could be interesting.
Less people outraged at my idea of requiring one carrier than your idea of having a sub. That's the beauty. That's the beauty at this point is I don't even feel bad. And I'm not great at carrier, but I do sometimes enjoy playing carrier. And I don't even feel bad about playing carrier anymore because 90% of the time you drop in a carrier, if there's 2 subs on your team, that's all anybody complains about.
You just crack your knuckles and go to work. Everybody about the subs.
You'd be like, well, just be glad I'm here because if that sub gets near me, my bot ASW will
You'll nuke it. Yeah.
and they're like, yes, good CV player. We like you now.
I don't know about sorry, go ahead.
Just, but so as far as having a sub in clans, I think they've been I haven't played ranked since they let subs in ranked. That was when I stopped playing ranked.
Subs in ranked is just randoms again, right? That doesn't count. If there's a sub in a game, and again, I know there's going to be pitchforks and stuff coming for this discussion, but like if there's a submarine in a game where all 7 of you are on voice and collaborating, that's very different than submarines in a random battle. You can actually coordinate and deal with this guy, whereas in a random battle, even if you're in a division, frankly, you're on your own with the submarine. Good luck, pal, right? And that's one of the reasons why it's super, super frustrating. But I wonder about in a fully coordinated team play scenario. This is me like making a little finger tent here and thinking this through. I don't know what I think about what it would really be like, right? Right now I'm just speculating, but
it depends.
I don't know.
I'm
not totally opposed to them trying it, I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
It depends on what tier the clan battle season was that introduced them. My personal
jetties.
My personal speculation zone reason right now that we haven't seen subs yet in clans is because they've only introduced 2 lines completely.
Oh yeah. Wait till the Soviets are out, right?
So here's my
sorry.
So Soviet submarine line is coming. And I think once Soviet submarine line is in game along with UK subs, German and American, that's when we'll see, because there's more options there. You'll see them in. But like if you said, well, we're going to do another season of tier 6 clan battles, there's not going to be any carriers, but we're going to allow subs. I think I would find that more frustrating because of the totally garbo ASW that a lot of the tier 6s have, like the junk range on it. Yeah, I think that would be more frustrating.
The short range at that lower tier would be awful.
Hopefully it's like a tier 8's clan season where they introduce subs maybe. I also think another reason you haven't seen them in yet is because they're looking at the numbers of percentage played. I've heard rumor that they're going to keep buffing subs until it's like 8% of all players are playing subs or something, which I think is a cockamamie rumor. But I think that they want to see... We see a lot of tier 10 subs in game, but I don't know how many people who are working submarine lines are at the 10 already. And if you look, it takes a lot of XP.
It does.
Like it's like carrier lines, right? So they may be looking at it going, there's just not enough tier 10 subs unlocked yet for us to want to do this. That's the only reason. Those are the only kind of reasons I can think of they haven't turned it on already.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of like, they released them. Every time anything big changes in this game, there's a huge wave of outrage. And I know that I'm describing this to people who are part of that wave of outrage, sometimes myself included. You guys have seen it on stream, but like there's a huge wave of outrage, and then over time we kind of get used to it and we go, okay, this is what World of Warships is now. And some things like the changes to carriers it's a longer term fomented hatred, and I think we'll see a longer term fomented hatred with submarines as well. I mean, I think there's going to be people who they're just dyed in the wool anti-submarine forever, and I think that's fine, right? You're allowed an opinion and everything, but I think you're probably not too far from the truth, where not only are they waiting to get a few more lines out there to have some diversity of selection, but they're also, one of the things they said was when they put subs in, they said, and we're not going to touch them for a while, guys. We're not going to balance them for a while. And that's Wargaming getting enough data so that they can make intelligent decisions about balancing things. They are changing some things about the economy. We've seen some of that happen. And that's them trying to figure out how to reward such a different class for certain activities and how that balances against other ships, things like that. And all of that stuff is totally in play. So I feel like maybe by the time the Soviet subs come out, we'll have, like you said, the 4 lines, we'll have some choices, they'll have a chance to do any sort of tinkering and tweaks because they'll have enough data. There's going to be this inflection point, this culmination of all of these attributes. Gato is going to come out at some point, a premium tier 10 submarine, and then we will be in a place where those will wind up in competitive, whether we want them there or not.
Yeah. That Gato's an interesting point I was gonna make, right? You've got
go ahead.
You have 3 tier 10s in game right now. If people wailed to get Thrasher, you have Gato coming, which is a steel ship, folks. It's a tier 10 submarine for steel.
Yeah.
There isn't even a submarine for coal yet,
Right.
but there is a submarine for steel. There is the Russian line that is soon TM. There's 3 premium tier 8s. that are out, right? And so I could see 8 being a tier of clans where they introduce them, just because you'd have 4 tech trees, and then you'd have a few premiums to add variety like that, and bring something different. If you go at 10, and Gato's out by then, you're going to see that get played by a certain brand of player that I think is going to be griefy. I think some of the horror stories are what you would think about is like, what happens if it gets down to, sub v sub, and because subs, that it's like you're waiting for timers so that you can try to scan for each other, and it's kind of weird, but anyway, really.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We've got a lot of comments. If you're just watching chat roll by over here on this screen, we got a lot of people being like, subs don't belong in this game. They promised us they would never give them. It's the classic submarine comments, and all of these represent valid and whatever opinions about this class. And then of course there's the thing that we know, which is of course they're here to stay, right? We're gonna have subs in World of Warships, and I'm trying my best to reconcile with that. And it's funny because I know you guys have seen it on stream where I'm trying to reconcile with this, guys. It's okay. And then I get into a battle and there's a submarine there and I'm like, gosh darn it, I got to run away from the sub. This a-hole's going to be torping me from behind. I had a game in the Schroeder that I still have nightmares about, where I got chased across the map from one end to the other by a guy in a sub who's just ping, 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 torpedo, torpedo, torpedo. Eventually we got to turn around and stomp the guy. But his game was fun for him, and for me it was running away from him. That was the only game I was allowed to play, right? So I understand the challenges with subs too, but I'm trying to see a future where they're in and they kind of make sense. Maybe we'll never quite get to the place I want it to be. I don't think they're quite there today, but they are still here. And as we kind of move forward, I guess I'm trying to keep that attitude, and it's not always easy. I'll share that at least as we go on. Taking a look at restrictions. I said I dislike. Oh wait, hang on. I liked some of the restrictions and I disliked others. That's my answer. And so I said I didn't like the Napoli Petro collective ban. It was confusing and frankly not helpful. Not helpful. What else did we? Let's see. This season had so many restrictions that I was constantly explaining them to members of my clan. There were so many rules, they could not keep them all straight. Let's see, the Marseille restriction didn't really matter, it seemed.
Not where we were playing.
Yeah, at least at squall, gale / storm. And then I'll say the French destroyer restriction started off barely restricting anything.
So in
This is
chat,
limit 3. Yeah, go ahead.
Wanderingra.
Wandering Raw is what I was going with. but
Wandering
yeah.
Raw. The rules are in Typhoon and Hurricane. The rules are for Typhoon and Hurricane and not for other leagues. Exactamundo. I completely believe that. So hey, why not update your software to actually have rules for the individual leagues?
Well, and if the leagues
Like-
were more defined, like I said, we shouldn't be
Hey, you know
facing the
In
Olympians.
Squall, you don't have that ship restriction. It doesn't kick in till Storm. Just how about that?
Mhm.
Like, or figure out a way to code that up, guys, or do something along those lines. Because I do completely agree that those restrictions are agreed upon by the Pentaverate that rules the universe, and they only affect the Pentaverate when they are fighting over the top 10 seeds.
Right.
And so why make the working man have to deal with that? I do not know. I would like to see that. And you're in the what ships and restrictions would you like to see? What are you coming up with here?
The first thing I stated in there is I appreciate the data-driven restrictions for season of clan battles that restrict overly popular or powerful team makeups. I know I'm kind of blocking it on the screen, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know what I'd like to see. Most restrictions I'm kind of fine with, right? Like in general, the only problem I had this season was there were just so damn many of them, you know?
I want to see the same restriction I want to see every season.
Yeah, what's that one?
Only one.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's my favorite one. Thank you.
I just want only one.
I really enjoyed. Yeah.
I just want only one. No 3 Moskvas, no 3 Petros, no 2 Nevskis, no 2 Demo. Nope, only one. Only one of every one thing. You can only have one.
Yes. This is
I
built
don't
for
care if
2
you have
reasons. Yeah, go ahead.
one St. Vincent and one Ohio. You can only have one. I just want one. And I want that across the board for every ship. And if the argument is, well, my clan members don't have enough of XYZs for me to do that, then you're not going to participate. It's really easy to use econ bonuses and randoms and get tier 10s nowadays.
Well, and you've got rentals as well, right? So if you've, I hate to say, why don't you go use a rental? Rentals used to be objectively worse because you couldn't put a camo on them, and so you'd have concealment penalties and stuff. I don't believe there's anything that makes a rental worse than the Techline version of that ship anymore. If I'm wrong, chat, let me know. I haven't used a rental in 6-7 years, forever. So I don't know if there's a restriction there, but
and I know there's a lot of
argument.
there's a lot of arguments against only one by people who don't have a ton of ships. Yes. And it's a free-to-play game, and that's not fair. But there's plenty of ships you can get free-to-play and still run a clan with the only one rule. The majority of popular ships in competitive modes are tech tree ships.
Well, and a lot of them are coal ships too, right? So if it is a premium, it's like stuff like Napoli, which you can get for free.
Right. And so I think just only one. Just do that. Just do only one, and you're fine. Yeah. I don't have to worry about, you can still, you want to run Kleber and Marseille, that's fine.
Yeah, I like that restriction. And the other thing about that restriction that I really enjoyed is that when I was calling for our clan, I was like, hey, can we get shots on this Moskva? Can we get shots on this Petro? Everybody knew immediately which one I was talking about. That's not a huge thing, but it's kind of a fringe benefit of that restriction as well.
I presume we already talked about 1BB. We did talk about that. We didn't really talk about hybrids. You said you didn't really have a problem with a hybrid.
At least the one hybrid we have right now isn't particularly overpowered. We did see some people using them there in week 7, and they were annoying. They were spotting stuff. They were bombing stuff, but it didn't feel to me like it was a huge problem, even when we played against that one Typhoon clan that was running one.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Louisiana is the most, at tier 10, but even probably tier for tier, it's the most powerful hybrid. I don't necessarily have a problem with it showing up. We didn't face it for 2 weeks because we missed week 6 or whatever week it was.
Yeah, we missed 6.
We saw a couple of them this week. I played it one round after we got to the point where we were messing around. I finally got to play it, and I'm comfortable in the ship. I think for everybody who has a hybrid, who knows what they're doing, who is a good battleship player and a good plane user, there's another guy that's a good battleship player that can't use planes at all, and then there's another guy who can't use battleships but can use planes, right? And you see that all the time with the hybrids and randoms.
Yeah.
You give up a lot with that ship in regards to tanking ability, although if you play it at range, the deck on Louisiana is so thick it'll bounce shells that drop in. And what you had was a lot of battleships. A lot of the battleships that would crush a Louisiana were banned this season. And if you were just worried about bouncing like 406 size shells from 18 kilometers, they're going to hit that deck and bounce, right? But, you know, when we fought them, I remember like charging one with Napoli, and we beat the bejesus out of that guy because he got too close to the action with it. So it just depends. I think ultimately, if you're going to say no carriers, you probably shouldn't allow any planes like that. But
it's not that the thing that I always like to mention there too, and not to like refute what you're saying, but to kind of carry the conversation forward, is, you know, those planes aren't free, right? Whereas in a carrier, you're designed to only do airplane attacks. In the battleship hybrid, whenever you're flying those things, every second you're every second beyond 30 that you're flying, you're giving up salvos. In battleships, they get to shoot twice a minute. There's only 20 minutes in a battle. You get a maximum of 40 salvos. So every minute you're flying, you're cutting off one of your salvos and reducing your total potential damage by whatever that percentage is, right? Which is more than a little bit. So like, I don't know that they're totally broken. I think fast forward 2 years from now, if we got a lot of hybrids from a lot of nations and Wargaming just goes ham and goes super ahistorical with this, which they already are somewhat ahistorical despite the fact that there was a real design, then maybe my tune will change. I think right now with just Louisiana out there, I'm not totally crazy about it, or not. I don't have a big problem with it. But
yeah, when it's a Kremlin that launches, you know, Nakhimov style
jets. Yeah,
when it's a Kremlin that launches Nakhimov style torpedo bombers or something, you know, they got
MiG-29s on there or something, right?
Launches a wing
brand
of fish
new
beds,
5th generation
like
fighters or something.
MiG-21s or something. Yeah, terrible.
I want to go back to Jetty's comment, which you kind of addressed to. He says, what I find, I just wanted to read it for the record. What I find interesting about this is everybody assumes clan battle rules are being made to cater to someone else, and it can't be easy to find a compromise. I think actually this whole discussion is born out of the fact that that's a true statement, right? Everybody goes, oh, this is just for some other group, right? You know, and again, from our perspective, we find ourselves fighting against players and clans that are well above our station. And sometimes we fight clans that are well below too. And, you know, that doesn't make you feel good either. But it's one of those scenarios where I think this is a complicated nut to crack. And the thing that would make it better is if we had more players and you could actually segregate into legitimate leagues. Maybe if you're a Hurricane clan the previous season, you start in gold, right? And you just continue on, except for the trouble with that is your rewards are tied to playing in those lower tiers and getting more games in. So you're motivated to play more games than you need to achieve excellence in order to get the economic reward. Like, it's complicated. This is not a simple problem to solve. So, you know, I do want to say that Wargaming has a difficult task if they're trying to make this into the perfect version of clan battles. And I understand why they might be slow to make some changes, right, in order to try to satisfy the needs of such a diverse group of players, and of course to try to do so without breaking the piggy bank too much. Okay, let's take a look at this next set of questions. What rewards did you like most of all? The reward that I feel impacts me the most is steel for personal use. So our clan does not achieve a level where we get steel for the clan's treasury. I think that starts in Typhoon. We tend to get up to where we get coal for clan's treasury, which is up here. I like coal for the clan's treasury, but frankly, it's not very much. The way our clan, I'll check the box here while we're talking about that. The way my clan distributes this, I have no idea how other clans do it. I assume that there are some clan leaders who smuggle this into their own coffers and don't tell their teams about it. But the way we do it is everybody who shows up for a session of clan battles gets a point. We figure out how many points there are at the end of the season. We divide that up and multiply that out, and everybody gets, usually active players get somewhere between 700 and 1,000 coal at the end of the season. Because as Scott has said earlier, we've got about 9 players who are active and who play clan battles. So, and we get, you know, somewhere between 7,500 and 10,000 coal, depending on the rewards established for that season. So to play a whole season of clan battles, to achieve gold and then go, hey guys, great, here's the 800 coal you earned. I can get 800 coal in 1 or 2 containers just playing one day. So for me, that's not a huge reward. I wish it feels a little stingy in terms of our achievement for the season, in my opinion.
It's not a reward. It's not a reward at all. It's stupid. Like even if it was 50,000 coal, it wouldn't be a reward in this. And as Alan, our friend Alan, has stolen from you in this. In the current in-game economy, if it was 50,000 coal that we were dividing amongst everybody, and we all got that'd be like
4,000 coal a piece, right? Is what you're talking about.
It still would be negligible to based on with Battle Pass and how much stuff we get.
Yeah,
I think when I checked these boxes, obviously I picked steel for personal use. And
that's the only thing I play for.
I picked additional free XP. And
that's true.
And I picked oil because we do get oil.
We do get oil.
This.
Yeah.
It generates oil for the clan, and we still have a couple of things we're trying to finish building. The rest of the stuff. I know we get some flags and some econ bonuses when you win like 15 battles, or I don't know how many you have to win or something. Every couple battles you get something. Signals maybe, but yeah, and I just laughed. Which rewards do you like least of all? And this is what I was talking about earlier. I was a clan token. What's a clan token? Who the hell knows what that is?
Us, poor huddled masses. We don't know about these fancy prizes.
Yeah, I'm not in the right token clan to be earning no clan tokens. So that and the steal for clans treasury. And who are you kidding? Like,
yeah. Gaelic Knight says and Gaelic Knight must be a clan leader. It says I limit every player the chance to get 1,500 coal every 6 months if needed, as we don't make much coal for our treasury, but it does help them get a little bit closer. So that's kind of cool. You've got like a what's the word? Like kind of a coal distribution program in your clan or something. So that's a different way to do it. I've never thought about doing that. I just give it out to the people who earned it. But I can imagine that there are clans who manage their treasuries in a bunch of different ways. So that's a new one I hadn't heard of. Thanks for sharing, Gaelic. Which maps did we get? We got
all of them. I can tell you right now, you can check every box.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get it because we played enough battles to do them all. Yeah. Okay. Which maps did I like the most? I like Hotspot.
Sleeping Giant, yeah.
I don't like Sleeping Giant. You know this. I talk about it literally every time we spawn into that map. I'm like, this map gives me the stress farts. I hate this map. I don't say that, but
oh boy,
I'm not going to say it's true or not.
They would have made those dozen or so matches better if that's how you'd open them every time. All right, guys, I've got the stress farts. Some of you to the left and some to you to the right.
No, that's too funny. Okay, so I like Hotspot a lot. I feel like that's just a tried and true map. I think people are probably bored of it, but I like it. Islands of Ice I like. I didn't really like Shatter, so I'll pull that one up here. And that's because this east side, these islands made it so hard to push through, and these guys were over here fighting for their lives, wishing we could make it through, and we just, or vice versa. If I was on the fighting for your lives side, it made for really stale battles. So I didn't enjoy that very much. Faroe Islands was okay. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I don't dislike Tears of the Desert. I kind of liked Estuary, I think, and I like Crash Zone Alpha. Again, relatively positive human being over here. So, two brothers. Oh, gross. For clan battles.
I didn't.
I think
I liked Estuary. Obviously, I don't like Sleeping Giant, and I did not enjoy the changes made to it. And I don't like it in the other format either.
Yeah.
I don't like it in the other format either. And what I would prefer is that it just took took a flying F and a rolling donut, and we didn't have it for a couple seasons. I liked Atlantic because it felt small.
Atlantic.
But to me, it felt small.
I liked Atlantic too, actually.
I was always on
I
was always on the stat cap side on that one.
Yeah, you were here.
And I found the fighting to be much more fun on the stat cap side than most maps with stat caps because the stat caps were so close. Like we'd go over there and we would fight. There was no like waiting. Like we were engaged over there, which was fun. I didn't dislike Faroe Islands if I was on the single cap side because I had some fun on that one. And I hated Shatter for the same reasons you do. There's too many islands and they're too tall.
Yeah, Shatter was tough. I'm gonna put that same thing.
Yes. Bowmaster did not like. I'm not sure. He beached on that one a lot.
Yeah, it's really hard to see through the fog is the problem.
Yeah, the sea of oatmeal that you must sail through is very complicated on that one.
I kind of want to actually uncheck Crash Zone Alpha. I don't think I dislike it, but this map feels like you're so far apart from your team. It's a difficult map. I'm going to uncheck it from the like pile, and I'm assuming they're going to say, what did you dislike in the future?
Yeah, they do ask that.
Estuary, a nice add, close quarters, and good islands for varied fights. Okay, let's go to the next page. Stat caps for the win! Woo! Which of these battles did you like playing the least? Shatter. I've always hated Sleeping Giant. Since 2016, I have hated that map in clan battles. It is a trash map. It's just awful. Let's see. Shatter. Mountains on the east side of the map are too tall and lead to stagnant gameplay. And then Sleeping Giant. The A cap is always a coin flip, and it's just so damn risky to go in there. Yes, you can apply some strategy, but it's a bit too cutthroat, leading to sudden twitch shot kills rather than well applied skill and strats. That's my take on Sleeping Giant. I just feel like whenever you go into A, even when the alpha cap is inside the eye over here on the west, it's such a coin flip. And you go in there and then it's all of a sudden you and another guy and you're fighting to be on the Joker's crew with a pool cue. And it's just like, okay. Like, I mean,
aggressive negotiations.
We're having tryouts. You know, yeah. There's only one spot available. And it's
I like the
insane.
idea of redoing Sleeping Giant, but I want the single cap to be over that little cluster of 4 islands on the east side, and I want the stat caps to be on either side of the crescents, just to make it completely
unplayable, because you'd have the same island problem we're talking about with Shatter.
That's what I want it to. It would just and I want the teams to spawn in the corners where they spawned this year, which was also the suck.
Yeah, that actually made some of the initial positioning to support the alpha push. I will say the alpha push is better this season than it has been in historical seasons, but it's still really, really rough. I mean, it's still just really, really brutal, and somebody's going to get gutted over there. Hey, thanks again for joining me, Scott. We'll catch you later on, man.
Night, man.
Buddy.
Jenny.
Here's the deal.
Let me tell you, here's the
deal there, pal.